Hi, and welcome to SimpleSpiritualityPH. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Regine. I am an intuitive, manifesting-based tarot reader. I am a certified Reiki healer and an overall lightworker. And before we dive into today's episode, I would like to invite everyone who would like to receive notifications of my new videos to please hit the subscribe button over there. If you like this video later on, please give it your thumbs up. If you have any comments, suggestions, you want to say hey, please do comment them down below. And if you would like your very own tarot reading or Reiki healing session with me, online for now, of course, here are the details. Alrighty, so let's get to the meat of the video. Now, let me just take a sip of my coffee. Today, my coffee of choice is a cappuccino. Now, from the title, I guess you all know what I'm going to be talking about today. And it's something that's very sensitive. The update is very sensitive. And like I said in the video, you probably already know what it's about. So you probably have noticed that I haven't been updating as much as I did. Haven't been uploading as much videos as I did beginning November last year, actually December last year. And that is because a couple of weeks ago, my mother actually passed on. She transitioned, she passed away, she transitioned to a different plane. And it was a roller coaster ride, basically, not just for me, but for all of my family members. So the story is, way back in December of 2022, she felt something in her stomach. She was having a bad stomach. I think it was that she was having a bad stomach, and there was one day wherein she threw up, and she said that she wanted to get herself checked. And so she admitted herself to the hospital because she thought that if she didn't admit herself, she wouldn't be treated right away, or she wouldn't be attended to right away, which is fairly true. When you're admitted in a hospital, you're the first priority, right? So she admitted herself. And from there, they discovered that same week that she had pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Now, prior to this, my mom had a clean bill of health. Our family doctor actually took a look at all of her, what do you call this? All of the things that she had tested. Like she would always go to she would always have executive checkups twice a year, you guys, twice a year. And they would always come back great. She had cancer marks as well. She had the cancer marks test and nothing came out. It was a clean bill of health all throughout. And so the doctors actually described it as someone just put it there. It was as if someone just put it there. And that week, that same week that I was supposed to, what do you call this? That same week, I actually got accepted into, for an OJT, for what do you call it? An externship abroad. It all happened in the same week. So I was high from being accepted into the externship abroad, but I was really low when we found out that my mom had pancreatic cancer. And so from then, she told us that she didn't want to tell a lot of people. She didn't tell a lot of friends. She didn't tell a lot of people this predicament that she was in. So she only told a couple of relatives, like close relatives, and maybe a couple of friends that she was experiencing a hard time, meaning she was going through something, and she decided to opt for chemotherapy, but she didn't even say to what extent it was. So a lot of her friends were actually in the dark when all of this happened, from the beginning up until the very last end when she passed on. Excuse me, for me and my family members, my other family members, we didn't tell a lot of people either. In fact, our executive chef at the hotel, thinking about a hotel. Our executive chef at the restaurant actually didn't know until I told her that I needed to take a little bit of time off in order to be with my mother. So they didn't know either. And so I'm not going to go into I'm not going to go into a full in-depth story of how the timeline was for my mother, but mostly this is mostly for me as an update, and maybe I can share a couple of things that I did if anyone else is experiencing, the same thing that I'm going through. So when we found out in December, I actually had hives and I had a sprained ankle. And so I went to our general practitioner, our family doctor, and she was the one who told me that pancreatic cancer of stage 4, especially for the elderly, because my mom is a senior citizen. She would probably have around 4 to 5 months total. But she actually told me to not tell my mom, my sister, my brother in law, and my father that I knew that there was only 4 months left. Because, first of all, she wasn't an oncologist. So she also didn't want to kind of like step over what the oncologist was going to say at this point. So she only told me so that I could prepare all the documents, all the things that needed to be signed, all the bank stuff, all the property and stuff like that. So that's the reason why she told me. And so I think in the long run, I actually had a lot more time to prepare in terms of grief. I was able to prepare myself very, very well in terms of grief. That week that I found out, I actually cried my eyes out. And I was at home. I spent New Year's with my dog, with Miso, and one of our helpers because her children went to the province. And so I spent 2022, the new year of 2022 to 2023, like that. My mom was able to come home from the hospital in for uh, for Christmas, but that was a while because she needed to go back to have chemotherapy. So she would be in and out of the hospital, and at one point it got better. But then so many other complications rose up, and she was never able to fully go back to chemotherapy, and that's when everything started. And then eventually she did pass on. And so here are actually some of the things that I did. And I think, like I said, I think this might help anyone who's going through the same thing, especially who's a spiritual person, if you are a spiritual person. So, the first thing I did was I really didn't uh, deprive myself of crying. When I felt that I needed to cry, I cried it all out. When I felt that I wanted to be sad, I felt sad. When I felt that I was not strong enough, I would talk to my brother, my best friend. I call my brother Kyle. Shout out to Kyle. So I would talk to him. And as you can see, I'm getting a little teary eyed, kind of like recalling what happened. So I did not stop any of that. When I felt that I needed to cry, I did. When I felt sad, I just felt sad. When I felt afraid, I felt afraid. I did not kind of like stop those emotions from happening because you're not really supposed to stop them. You need to like express them. So that's a very good way to go about it at first, especially if you're someone who's experiencing this new, like this is something that's happening to you as well, and it's very fresh, like you just got word of it. Don't stop yourself from feeling all those emotions. It's okay to feel all of those emotions. It's okay to cry. In fact, you'd probably feel better if you just cried it out. So that week that I found out, I really cried my eyes out, and I did not stop myself whatsoever from feeling whatever it is that I needed to feel in order to um, move forward in this process. Because at that point that I found out, it was still very fresh, and my mom opted to go to chemotherapy. And so um, there were options being presented to us, but still, I just cried it all out, and I never stopped crying it all out. Now, the second thing that I did, and I think it's very interesting and it's very helpful, is I continued to do the daily things that I did. My dad would be with her at the hospital. My dad is retired, so he was really the person who would go with my mom to the hospital, be her companion there. And for me, I never stopped my daily routine. I am at the, um, it's about to rain. So I am at the school and the restaurant every day of the week. Monday to Sunday, I don't get a break. Now I do because the class that we're teaching has already graduated, and congratulations to them. Very good batch. So I never stopped my routine. Um, I kept going to school because I liked going to school, and my mom always told me to not miss a day of school. So I always went to school. I continued to exercise as much as I could, you know. I continued to watch my K dramas. I continued to listen to my K pop. I continued to walk my dog. I didn't stop all those routines. And that's one of the things, if you're going through something like this, is you kind of really want to have an anchor to kind of like keep you grounded. Because when you're not grounded, that's when you start to make, that's when you start to fly away with all your emotions. It's a very difficult thing. Like, it's one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do to go through this entire process. But I think it would have been harder if I stopped doing my routines, if I gave in to that fear, if I gave in to actions based on sadness or actions based out of fear. Because I had a routine, I was able to be grounded, and um, I was able to make tough decisions. Like when my mom said that she did not want to be resuscitated because she almost had a heart attack. Well, not a heart attack, but failure basically. She went into she went into code blue, basically, before one of the procedures were supposed to be done. She said DNR and she signed it herself. And I was able to accept that much better because I knew that that's what she had written down. I saw that that's what she had written down. So I was able to accept that. And so, whatever routine you have, continue to keep it because it's really going to help you, again, ground yourself and kind of like um, give yourself a sense of control, a little bit of control. When a time like this happens, that's the first thing that usually happens is you feel like you lose control or you feel like you have no control whatsoever. But in fact, you do. And whether it's a small thing or a big thing, just continue to have your grasp, have that part of you that you can control or that part of your life that they can control a continuous thing. Continue to do that. It will help you make better decisions. It will help you to think clearly despite whatever is going on. So I never stopped going to school, studying, going to my duty, to my OJT at the restaurant. I continue to walk my dog. I continue to exercise. I continue to watch K dramas at night. And I would tell my mom about it whenever I would see her because my mom didn't let me visit her at the hospital. Uh, she only allowed me to visit her at the hospital in the last few weeks of her stay here on Earth. Now, that being said, I know that I had a routine, but at the same time, I also opened myself to flexibility. Now, like I said, I continue to exercise, right? But there were a lot of times, especially throughout the end of that time, that I really wasn't able to exercise at all. And in fact, I gained weight. I don't know if you can tell, but my face is much larger. And when I step on the weighing scale, I'm much heavier than I was like a couple of weeks ago because we needed sustenance. We always needed to be on alert. We, our caregiver for my mom would wake us up in the middle of the night to have help, like to lift her and stuff like that. Um, so a lot of things really like changed. A lot of things we had to adjust to throughout this entire process. So even though you have a routine, I would suggest also to open yourself up to flexibility. If you need to be flexible about something, just entertain that idea. Don't shut it out all at once. Routine is important, but flexibility is also important. So my example for that is, like I said, I wasn't able to exercise every day, but I only exercised when I could because I knew that it helped. And in the last month of my mom's life, I actually asked our executive chef if I could take a break from interning at the restaurant for just a month because I wanted my Tuesdays, my Thursdays, and my Saturdays to be spent with my mom, whether it was at the hospital or for the last few days of her life here at home. So I opened my mind up to that, and I knew that that was as important as the routine itself. So if you are going through this, learn to have that balance. Like keep the things, keep the for the routines, keep for the routines that you can continuously do. That's easy for you to do. Keep that, whether it's a small routine or a big routine. And where you can be flexible, definitely explore that idea as well so that you can accommodate so much more um, throughout this entire process. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, why didn't I manifest her to live longer? Or why didn't I manifest for the pancreatic cancer to go away? Actually, for those of you who know, I am a conscious manifester, and I actually did manifest for that to happen. And so did my brother, Kyle. So did my brother from another mother. He also manifested that to happen. He prayed a lot and a lot with his prayer group, and he also consciously manifested it. And I personally believe that my mom would not have lasted as long as she did if I didn't manifest it. Now, one of the things that I was saying, actually, one of my affirmations for her is that she was alive and thriving. I would say that she was alive and thriving. And I think that did manifest for her in a sense that everyone she wanted to see, except for one person, I think, everyone she wanted to see came home for her. We have relatives from all over the world, and they came home to see her. And at that point that they saw her, she was alive, she was thriving, she was happy with them, she was loved everywhere. Not in the last month of her life, her bed, her bedside was filled with people who loved her. And I truly believe that she was alive and thriving. So manifestation, check. Conscious manifestation, checked. And I also manifested for her whenever it was the time, I manifested for her to go quietly, like just calmly. And she did. She passed on while she was sleeping. So in the calmest way that you could. She was actually very calm, very asleep, and everyone said that she looked beautiful when we had the wake. So she was cremated, but we had a viewing for her. We had a 3-day wake for her, and everyone said she looked beautiful and at peace. And I believe that too. The makeup that they did on her was beautiful. I remember this, she also asked me to take care of her nails because she said she either wanted red nails or she wanted a French tip. And I told her, red nails? Let's just go with French tip. So she was like, okay, French tip. So we got someone to do a French tip for her so that her nails looked beautiful as well. Everything about her wake was beautiful. Even her demeanor was beautiful. And so, yeah, that were some of the things uh, that we did, that I did basically in order to cope. It's It's very interesting because one of our chefs told me that whenever a parent or family member very close to you passes on, you never really get over it. Like you get a sense of they're not here anymore. And I think that's true. But the thing that I feel that I can get over is the pain that she, like I won't be seeing her physically, but I know that she's around. Like she's probably listening right now because she's on another plane, right? Um But I think that's true, that you never really get over it. You kind of always know that your family member is not around anymore. But what you can get over is the pain. And what you can get over is the heartache, the frustration, the fear. Thankfully with me, I don't have any regrets with my mom. So I was also able to reconcile that very quickly. Um, I don't regret anything. Like, basically, I have no regrets. I said everything I wanted to say to her. I did everything that I wanted to do with her. Most of it. Yeah, most of it. And I feel that I was really like what I did throughout that entire process of just not restricting myself from feeling it, not restricting myself from crying, um, like keeping on my routines and still being flexible. I think that formula really helped me to calmly and strongly go through the entire process of grief. Now, we're still also actually grieving, but at the same time, like the grieving period isn't over. But I find that I no longer cry as much. I only cry like when it, let's say, maybe when I think of her, maybe 1 or 2 times I cry out of the 5 times that I think of her. when I miss something very deeply and dearly about her, or when I miss my mom, like very deeply and dearly. But for the most part, I'm, and this is kind of weird. This is the weird part. I was talking to my cousin about this. One of my cousins, Kuya Irwin, he has already gone through this process um, with his own parents, and I told him that it's a very weird feeling to be sad about it, but at the same time also feel very relieved because I mean, of course you'll feel sad when your parents or when your loved one is gone, right? Like you won't be able to physically see them anymore. But at the same time, I'm also very happy that all the anxiety is gone. Because at that time when it was happening, every phone call turned into a threat of she might be dying or she might already be dead. You know, she might already have passed on. And every phone call was like that. Every text message was like that. It was fearful. It was a fearful time. And now that she's passed on, it's not that way anymore. Like every text is now happy news. Every call is now happy news. And more than that, I'm happy because she no longer has to suffer. For her particularly, because it was pancreatic cancer, so there was an illness. There was, to a certain degree, a lot of pain involved in that for her. And so I'm also very happy that she no longer has to deal with that kind of pain. That where she is right now, I know that she's pain free. She's not struggling anymore. She's not yeah, she's not in pain anymore. She's not anxious. She's not fearful anymore. And I like that's the best that you can have for someone who has gone through that much of pain and struggle, basically. So that's why I said sad and relieved. Like it's a two-way street. Sad because obviously, right? But also relieved, and the relievedness is a two-way street. So I don't know if other people can relate to that. If you can, just comment down below. But yeah, I think only the people who have lost someone very dear understand what that feeling is like. It's a very complex kind of feeling, you know. I'm not belittling anyone's capacity to feel or empathize, but like, I don't know, it's a very specific, it's very experiential, you know, like you kind of just understand it when you're at that moment, when you're at that point that it's actually happening. So yeah, that's actually my update. I hope I didn't bog you down too much. But yeah, don't worry, I'm fine. I mean, we are still going through the grieving process, but like I said, I knew about this since December, and I have had some time to prepare myself. So I think that I'm doing it pretty well, and things are going back to normal, if not better. So that's it. I hope you like this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any comment suggestions you want to say hey, please do comment them down below. If you would like your very own tarot reading or Reiki healing session with me online for now, of course, here are the details. And that's it. Stay happy, stay healthy. One more thing that I remember that I did, I tried to eat as healthily as possible, and I tried to laugh as much as possible. There will always be moments in your life when it's very, very low, and you need to find or create those those moments of light for you, those moments of joy, those moments of happiness for you. So I also did that on a daily basis. And shout out to my culinary family for always having my back, especially to my group mates, Bert and Lim. Those two boys, men, rather, well, one 23 and 39 years old. I don't know if they're still called boys or men, but those two guys, I love them so much. They have been such an understanding uh, they've been such understanding group mates for me. They have accommodated everything, you know, like I didn't have a lot of mood swings, but they understood me perfectly well when I was going through the whole process. So, yeah, see you guys next time.